Hey everyone, welcome to the Win in STEM podcast. This is your host, Sade. Thank you for tuning in. For our first time listeners, Win in STEM is a platform to highlight successful people of color STEMists to show others how to get a seat at the table and win in science, technology, engineering, and math. Guess what? This is our season finale. It's bittersweet. We've started the season back in March and we're 10 episodes deep. So thank you so much, everyone, for rocking with me. Today, we'll be wrapping up the STEM Career Path series. So make sure to check out our past episodes if you haven't heard them. I personally get a lot of questions on what I do for work, what's a systems engineer. So I thought, why not have our last episode be about systems engineering and answering everyone's questions? So the next time someone asks me what I do for work, I can send them this podcast episode. I didn't want to do this episode by myself, so I thought, why not invite one of my good friends who basically was there from the beginning of my career. I think we started
Started
about
from
2
the
weeks
bottom,
apart.
now we're here.
I think we started like 2 weeks apart, right?
Yeah.
So we literally went from like coworkers to family. So I would like to welcome my special guest, Juammy Lora. He's a systems engineer at Lockheed Martin. Thank you so much for being here today and squeezing me in your busy schedule. I appreciate it.
Oh man, I must say, thank you so much for the invite. My mouth was shocked when you invited me. I'm like, oh heck yeah, let's do this.
Yay. Before we dive into the questions, one of the things we do on the podcast is to allow our guests to introduce themselves. So basically telling our listeners who you are, what you do, fun facts, accomplishments. This is your time to brag, to shine.
Shine like a diamond. All right.
Like Rihanna said, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So yeah, my name is Juammy Lora. My background, my parents are Dominican, the DR. I was born in New York, but when I was 5 years old, my parents moved to DR where I lived my childhood and up until like 13 years old. And then moved to Orlando. So I've been a Orlando native since 2003. Went to high school, college, went to UCF, got my bachelor's in computer engineering, and right after that, I got hired at Lockheed, which is where a few weeks later I met Sade. So our careers, like we said, we started there, and that's where we became, systems engineer, and our career flourished from there. 2 years ago, I started my master's back at UCF. So I just graduated with my system engineering project management degree and been in the company for 7 years, really enjoying my career, learning a lot. And then as far as hobbies and my personal, the thing I like to do the most is, dance, play basketball, hang out with friends and family. So that right there is the sum of who I really am. I love,
And cook. You be cooking too.
oh yeah, I love cooking too. Yeah. So in 2015, like I started going to like salsa events where you go and learn at a dance studio. And fun fact is like there's bachata and salsa and kizomba conference all throughout the year. So I got involved in that world, joined a few teams where we learn a routine and we perform in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. So that's really exciting. Being on stage, the nerves, your heart actually racing. So that was fun. I took a break for my master's, but shortly here starting to join another team. So that's what my wife and I we do also enjoy that. The both of us met my wife at college, got married in 2020, have a German Shepherd and a beautiful home, and that sums up Wami
And living the life.
living the life.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that introduction. So let's dive in. So this question I get all the time. What is systems engineering?
Yeah, that's a broad question. It's hard to really answer that because
Yeah.
I could tell you this, right? Like a system, if you grab a pencil, that's a system. So it's like we're talking about something so broad, so generic. So if you go to school, you're gonna be taught like 5 definitions of what a system is, what system engineering is. It all comes down to, in my opinion, like how you see a project. Or if you're in this field, we all know that the moment we get our career started, we get pointed to the V, right? The system engineer V model. So yeah, a system could be, a combination of hardware, software, people, facilities, procedures, all of that. You organize that and you come up with a, like, trying to accomplish a goal. So to me, that's what system engineering is accumulation of a whole bunch of things that at the end of the day, we're just trying to provide a solution to our customers.
And one thing I'll add is like in my point of view, like system engineering is basically like the life cycle of a system. So you have an issue you want to solve, right? And how do you solve it? How do you build a system that solves that issue? The
Right.
system engineering. So that goes from meeting with the customers, getting their wants and needs, their requirements, and then
Designing.
translating
Yeah.
that, yeah, and then translating that into a design and designing the subsystems within that overall system. And then before you integrate each of the little subsystems, testing them out, making sure that they work individually before you put them together. And then when you put the subsystems together, you test it again, making sure that they are working correctly, they meet the requirements that you set with the customer initially, test it, and then you deploy out to the customer, to the field, and you maintain it by upgrades. If there's any problems, you fix it. And it's just, yeah, like a circle. And you start from
Ongoing testing and integration.
yes.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what led you to choosing a career as a systems engineer? Because you started off as a computer engineer. How did you make that switch?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of background. Ever since I could remember, right? I'm like 10, 11, 12. I had an older brother. If I was 10, he was like in his 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So hanging out with him, I'll see him opening monitors, radios, computers. I remember seeing a lot of circuit boards, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that was in there. So I got intrigued early in my youth seeing that from my brother. And then ever since there, that sparked like my interest in the engineering, science, STEM field. When I was in college, right, I came to my guidance counselor and I'm like, oh, what do you like? And I'm like, oh, I like computers. So my first like year, I started with actually computer science, which is, 100% coding and programming. And the moment I realized, I'm like, let's put a pause because I'm not a fan of this.
Mm-hmm.
I like tangible hardware things. So that's why early in my school career, I transitioned to computer engineering because it brings half and half,
Mm-hmm.
half electrical and half programming.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I pretty much graduated with. Loved my career choice, getting that bachelor, being part of SHEP, which is how I learned, a lot about the career. So that's how I understood that system engineering was really for me.
Mm-hmm. And SHEP is Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers for all the
Correct, yeah.
ones, yeah. I think my career path is a little different. So I started off, it's crazy. So I started off as
Hmm.
computer engineer, and the programming classes turned me off. So I switched to electrical. And then in college, I had interned with General Dynamics as systems engineer. And I was like, okay, I like this. I like the whole big picture thinking
Hmm.
that system engineering is. Like
Right,
creating something from beginning to end versus electrical engineering, you focus on one thing and one thing only.
right.
So after graduating with the electrical engineering degree, I was like, okay, let me shoot my shot and apply to system engineering careers, and then got a spot at Lockheed. My first year, I liked it. I was like, okay, I'm digging this. I want to do my master's. So I think the first year working helped me realize that system engineering is something I want to do long term. So got my master's, and yeah, man, it's been a wrap.
And also, you gotta enjoy each and every like year that you are in systems engineering
Hmm.
because each phase of that, let's say V, is so important and critical to have that full picture. Like holistic view really depends of you enjoying each phase of the engineering life cycle, like you said.
I know we're saying like system engineering V, so I'm just gonna pull it up and kind of give people like an overview. So the system engineering V, it starts up like on the top left, concept of operations. So what's the concept of what you want to create? And then you have your requirements and architecture. Then goes detailed design, implementation, integration, test, and verification, system verification and validation, and then operation and maintenance. So, operation and maintenance is basically where the customer has it and they're doing their thing. So, yeah, within I think both of our systems engineering career, we've had like experience in different aspects of the V. I think that's what the good thing about system engineering too, that you're not always just focused on one thing. Like every day is
Mhm.
different. And then speaking of every day, so what's your typical day like as a system engineer? Like what's problems are you solving? Who are your customers? Yeah, things like that.
So currently, I'm back to the world where I began my career, which is integration and test. So I joined a team, the UAE, which is the Emirates. We're talking about the countries, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and we are developing full mission trainers for the F-16.
Ooh.
So being in this program and in this team, my day to day as a system engineering is we go in the lab. We know the agenda of the day because we have a dashboard that says all of the PTRs, which these are, your critical problems. Whenever the developers fix them, is our task to make sure we have the latest and greatest build, and then we go and test and verify that that PTR is in fact resolved. So a day to day consists of working with our pilots, which are the subject matter experts. Sometimes I jump on the simulator cockpit, or sometimes they do, and we work very closely to test. For example, I remember yesterday our goal was to test 10 PTRs. So the day starts by, all right, guys, let's go and tackle these five or whatever order. And yeah, so we run a scenario and we verify that that PTR by a software developer did fix the problem. If it fixes it, we pass the PTR and we move along. If it doesn't, then we bring him down and we work together to really come up with a overall agreement that okay, whatever you did didn't solve it, so go back to the drawing boards and let's get this fixed.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, I talk to my lead and I'm like, hey, we tested out these 10 PTRs and this is how we stand today. And he takes that information and then talks to the managers above myself. So that's a day to day at a integration and test system engineer.
I noticed you went to like Dubai a couple of months ago. That was a work trip.
Yeah, correct. So I joined this team late April, and I've never been in like a pilot simulator trainer. So all summer I was just absorbing everything. These systems are so complex and so many things like going on at a time. But I was able to jump in there in the fire, learn as much as I could. And by October, I got the opportunity to travel with the integration and test team because we had just passed all of our events and the customers were happy to the point that we shipped our devices to UAE in Abu Dhabi, and then the installation team will then build up the system, and it's our job to make sure that they're good for operation. So an event we call FOSCO is just make sure the system is functionally operable so that our customers could go and begin our last test validation and begin training. So I was there for 20 days from October 2nd to like the 22nd. A lot of work. I wouldn't say it was like all fun, but the experience was just magnificent. 13-hour work days,
Mm.
only like 1 or 2 days off. But again, like I loved every minute of it. I was thrown in the fire, and this time for real because I was helping out the hardware team, which is like getting in the panels and like screws down to the bolts, doing voltmeter. Like it was just so much fun to then building the whole infrastructure. So it was a great event and a great experience. And I get to go back tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I'm jealous. I want to travel.
I know. I'll put you in the luggage.
So I know when we first started, like at Lockheed, we were both on F-35. So F-35 and F-16, they're both fighter jets. So were there like similarities you were able to bring like the knowledge that you learned on F-35 to help you with F-16?
That is a great question. So in Lockheed, F-35 is obviously our biggest and is our golden boy, if you want to call it. So, all of the really, really smart people, all of the real good money goes into that program. What we're doing with the F-16 is like its little brother. So what we're experiencing now, it's a lot of folks that have the knowledge of the X-35. We're being borrowed to the F-16 to make the F-16 as similar as possible to the F-35 procedures, you know, the way it's designed and developed.
Mhm.
So that's something really cool that Lockheed is doing. And yeah.
Cool. Through your experience as a system engineer, what are some common challenges you've experienced?
Hmm. That's a good question, and I'm honestly gonna go back to my previous team, which is called SEIT, Engineering Integration Team. This is pretty much the team that oversees all of the trainers that we have in Orlando, RMS. So this is a small group that is in charge of filling any gap whatsoever that exists in any of the trainers. So that's where we'll come in and we'll solidify, procedures. If there isn't any procedures, it was our job to document them and implement them and make sure everybody follows suit. It's the team where, the top requirement comes down from our customer.
Mhm.
Anything you could think of, modeling, architecture. So that's like the top level of the entire training facility. That will be, in my eyes, the most difficult experience, the most challenges I've had.
Mhm.
One of them being, the requirements method that we get our future work. There was no procedure there. There was no
Yeah.
process, and that's where I came in and I implemented, this is the new procedure. Everybody follows this, and hopefully, the struggles we're dealing with now will that struggle will be eliminated. So providing such a large system like F-35, providing just a simple process is really hard because it's so many people that need to understand and follow that procedure that it takes time. So everything just took a long time and a lot of headache.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. Like even for like me now, I think my most common challenges is the requirements aspect. The customers give you all these documents and they want X, Y, and Z, but trying to differentiate, okay, what is a want and what is a need, and then getting everyone on board because everyone wants different things. Sometimes there's no processes. So when you're creating new processes, not everyone's going to agree with it. They want to add their own thing.
Here's another good one, right? Like I'm not a manager myself, but I understand that in the culture we have your veterans in the field that have been doing this for 30 years
Mhm.
and then the 19, 20-year-old that think they could run the world. There's that gap in the middle, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of our issues as well.
Mhm. So what's your favorite part? I know you mentioned a little bit like traveling. What else excites you?
I really enjoy just having a tangible system I could see, I could feel, I could work on this and that. For example, in the summer, like I said, one of our labs, the moment we shipped our devices, the lab was empty. So then it was our job to scavenge things from the IDC, which is the demonstration or anywhere, and we made up our own training device so that we could have something to do while those devices are gone. So that was really fun. From the ground up, we built a cockpit and 6 monitors, and we display them in such a way that it feels like a actual full simulator. So that's my real favorite part is doing something from the ground up and being
Mhm.
part of that. That's how you learn. It's like, oh, that cable goes there and this computer talks to that. That's my favorite part. Working with the SMEs, I enjoyed when I was in the maintenance, working with the
Yeah, I was just
maintenance.
about to say
That was,
that.
and to this day, they're still like my Mr. Tony. He's
Hmm.
uh he's like my godfather at work. And now with the pilots, it's such a good network working with these military pilots, military maintainers, and
Mhm.
that's what makes the day really fun. Is getting to know them, working with them. We're partners. We're in this together, and that's what I love about my job.
Yeah, my integration and test days, my favorite part was just working with the customer, like the people who are actually going to use our system, the Air Force, the Navy, even like the
Hmm.
UK folks, and just getting their feedback and then being so happy that we are delivering a good quality product.
Oh yeah, seeing a smile on their face is like, yeah, we did like that brings satisfaction. It's like, all right, what we're doing is fulfilling their need, and that's
Mhm.
the best job, part of the job.
Yeah, and my favorite part was like
Favorite.
literally if we were going through some type of like simulation scenario and customer made a user error and I pointed it out, I was like, yeah, our system works X, Y, and Z. You made a user
Hmm.
error. And basically, I felt proud. Our system is dope. Like our system is working correctly. It's
Yeah.
not broken. You're the one who made the mistake.
Ah, that brings another great thing is like our job is also during the design and implementation is to break the system. So what other job can you go into a system and like break it, right?
Mm-hmm.
By breaking it is how we make it more solid, how we make it better.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's another aspect about being a system engineer that your job is to go where you think the customers won't reach.
Mm-hmm.
So that when they do reach it, the system is good enough that, it won't break the whole
Yeah, yeah.
system. So that's really cool.
Mhm. So, and system engineering, is there like an ultimate step on the system engineering career ladder? Like, or you can use yourself for example. What is your ultimate goal in your career as a system engineer? Where are you striving to
Hmm.
be at?
That's that's a great question, and there's so many avenues to answer this question. I'm gonna go back and just say it all depends on your root person. Like, first of all, are you a people person or are you're not, right?
Hmm.
Because that's the question you should ask number one. Do I want to manage people or do you want to stick to the technical? So those two questions go hand in hand as to what's the ultimate step. If the question is I love people and I hate technical, then you want to go towards the management. And the management, we all been there where we have two managers, two bosses, right?
Yeah.
The guy that or girl that worries about my career development or my lead that cares about the solution being the best.
Hmm.
That is how you determine what your steps should be. In my perspective, I follow the technical aspect. Now that I understand to become a manager and a project manager, there's a lot of playing parts, and you have to have the business mindset, the people mindset to become a good manager.
Hmm. That's a great example. System engineering can either stay technical or go the managerial route, be a manager, program manager, or the technical route, IPT lead, chief engineer,
Architects.
architect, or if there's like a specific area in the system engineering V that you really like and enjoy, you can be like a SME or an expert in that particular field as well. I guess both of us can answer this, but within our experiences, what do you think is the key characteristics that systems engineers must have to be successful?
Always be ready to adapt and adjust quickly.
Hmm.
I feel like every 2 years, our field has to be the first one to change. Because if we don't change, then we get stuck, and then we're late in the race. And I feel like in an engineering world, you have to be ready to always adapt.
Yeah.
The way the technology is coming so fast, so furious, we have to be ready to handle that.
Hmm.
So system engineers should be ready to, if the task you're working on today, for example, if I'm in IRAD, which is a research type of contract, it might close down and you got to be ready to change gears and do something else. So flexibility, adaptability is the two characteristics that I could think of.
Yeah. And then another characteristic is like collaboration is really important because as an engineer, you're working with software engineers, you're working with hardware engineers, working with program managers, project managers, and you're going to need to be able to work with them.
Oh yeah,
I think, yeah, that's an important skill in any industry, but it's really important in system engineering because you're working with different people from
different
different, yeah,
disciplines.
disciplines, different backgrounds. And
Yeah,
also that ties in with communication, being able to communicate technically what you're working on and even tailoring it to the different disciplines that you interact with. So, because if you're explaining an issue to a software engineer, it's going to be different the way you explain it to a program manager. The program manager doesn't care what caused the issue. He just wants to know when is it going to get done and fixed and to stay on schedule. So you have to be able to, communicate effectively, but also tailor it to who you're talking to.
yeah, for sure. I just wanted to add there. You said it best, but know your audience, right? It's who you're
Mm-hmm.
talking to. Is this person technical? Then he cares about the metrics, the numbers.
Yep.
If he's not, then he cares about money, finance, and the amount of engineers it's gonna take. So all of that, like you said, communication is key for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll be honest. Obviously, the V, right? It's so different. Every step is different.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful, my opinion is you have to bite the bullet for like 2 years of your early career and do that job nobody wants. That's how you're really gonna learn. The V is not entirely fun because you will learn that. But yeah, be ready to bite the bullet and learn as much as you can on those, not so fun jobs versus the fun jobs. Enjoy your entire career because that's the best way to really be successful in this field.
And to learn what you don't want to do long term.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so we've given out the key characteristics to be successful. So, what are some pathways or strategies you recommend for people who are looking to get into systems engineering? Is a technical degree needed, or do you recommend courses, certifications?
I'm not sure how to answer this one, sis. And the reason I say that is early in my career, right? My bachelor's is all I had, and I jumped in my career. As I was learning about the field and the industry, that's how I then picked up, becoming, for example, doors, right, is a tool for requirements.
Yep.
You learn that on the job.
Yep. Yep.
There's others that you have to go outside and become certified if that's what you want. So if you're in a good company, these companies will supply these courses and the exam cost for you to, develop it. But if you come to the industry with those already, then kudos to you. You will stand out the most.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents on that.
And for me, within my career as a system engineer, I've noticed that there's not a lot of people who actually went to school for system engineering. It's like for like bachelor's degree. For example, I was electrical engineer and then I went into system engineering. Wami had
Mhm.
computer engineering that went into systems. We had chemical engineers, we had math majors, we even had like a
Industrial,
graphic design. Because wasn't Ryan like in art or
I think so.
yeah, like
Yeah, like people that make video games for a living are in system engineering. Yeah, it's very
it's,
broad.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very broad. Like honestly, don't think you need a technical degree to get in. I think
Yeah.
you just really need to have the problem solving skills, being analytical, communicating effectively, honestly, to get in. A technical degree is good. If you are in like the engineering or like science technology fields, it's a plus, but I don't think it's really necessary to get into the field. So I guess certifications depends on where in the V you want to go, or even the like our ultimate step career ladder that we talked about. Like if you want to
Hmm.
be, program manager, you can go and get your PMP.
Right.
You can get your Scrum certification, Agile certifications. Or actually, there is a
Security, cyber, it all depends. That's why I'm like, me personally, I don't have security certificate. I do have Scrum, but it's all because the job pretty much requires it, right? So it's as technology evolves, then it's like, oh, guess what? If you get this certificate, then if that job is what you see in the next future, then go ahead and get that.
Yeah, that's true. I know there is it's a I know there's a certification for system engineering. I don't know the top of my head, but clearly I don't have it. But
Mhm.
I at least have a master's in it. So honestly, if you can get your foot in the door, a lot of the skills that you need, you'll literally be learning on the job.
Yeah, a lot of it is
Yeah.
learning on the job.
hmm Do you have any advice to anyone who is, let's say, trying to get in or is already a system engineer but might want to transition into a different area in the system engineering V?
Um, well, I kind of already said it. Let's say you are currently you find yourself in the integration and test team and you want something else. Well, that something else might be, the requirements lead or working with architects to do some design, or it could be proposals. And so wherever you see that left side of the V,
Mhm.
go ahead and jump on it. It's a way for you to learn it. It's a way for you to get out of what you're doing and understand the bigger picture. And the more of these you jump on, the more your V is going to be filled.
Yeah.
Think of it like a board game, right? Or I've been there. I know what that's about. And then you're gonna see how, for example, concept of operation really impacts all the way to the right, which is operation and maintenance. When you have an experience on both sides, you understand how to impact a program.
hmm
Now, in the case that you're not in the industry yet, I myself find myself super lucky because I was hired to Lockheed without the internship. But getting internship is obviously your best route. Try your best to do any type of on the field experience and sell yourself as best as you can with these when it comes to finding a position here.
Yeah. And then for students who are looking to get internships in system engineering, you don't have to have a major in system engineering. You can be a major in biology or engineering
Yeah.
to get an internships in system engineering. So I say all that to say, don't basically say shoot your shot. Don't sell yourself short because you never know. Just never know. So this was great. How can our listeners connect with you if they have any type of follow up questions?
So obviously there's 100 social media methods. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then my personal email. So if you guys could write this down, it's my name. So Juammy, JUAMMYLORA @gmail.com. And if we're talking about any other social media, it's gonna be JUAMMY, the number two and the number three.
Cool. So I'll put all of that in the podcast description so people have easy access.
Sweet.
But thank you so much, Kwame, for this. This was fun. It was great catching
Oh yeah,
up. It's been a
I had a blast.
while. It's been a while. And I appreciate being on my grand finale. I hope you had fun on
Thank
your
you for
first podcast.
thinking about me. I was so flattered. It's like my sister. Yeah,
Oh, I appreciate it.
come down to Florida soon.
I know.
Oh,
I know. I do have to come back. Because you got a new house, right?
yeah,
You got a guest room?
I sure do.
Yeah, I'm literally asking everyone. I asked you, I asked
Guess
Mo.
room.
I was like, y'all have a guest room for me because
Mhm. No, that's the point of networking.
mm-hmm.
Hey kids out there, always network.
Yeah. But not for sure. 2023 is on my calendar to come
Gotcha.
through. Well, that's a wrap, folks. You don't have to go home, but y'all gotta get. No, I'm joking. But seriously, though, thank you everyone for tuning in this season, for supporting the podcast. It really makes me happy to hear that this podcast has been very impactful to y'all. As we enter the holiday season, I wish everyone a safe and lovely happy holidays and happy new year in advance. We have some big things popping and planned for 2023, so stay tuned. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at the When It's Done Podcast for updates. I'm going to try to share more STEM resources and content on our IG page. So if I come across free boot camps or free certifications or scholarship, I'll be posting that. So make sure to keep your eye on that. But until next time, y'all be great. See you next year and go out and win instead. Bye.